Good morning. Glad you could join us. Glenna is in Israel with Governor DeSantis, and we're going to have a report from her later on. But right now, presidential politics and a homegrown candidate for president, Wayne Messam of Miramar. In late March, Mr. Messam announced he's running for the Democratic nomination. He is one of about 24 candidates in the race. He is trying to stand out with a compelling personal life story. The son of Jamaican immigrants, a successful businessman, former college football star, and for the last 4 years, the mayor of a mid-sized city that has faced some of the same problems and divisions that the country faces: gun reform, climate change, oil drilling, a living wage, law and order, and what to do about staggering student debt. Wayne Messam has some ideas and has proposed solutions for all of those things, and he joins us live in the studio this morning. Mr. Mayor, great to have you come in.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
What is Wayne Messam's key message here? What is your candidacy about?
Well, I'm running to restore the American dream for the average hardworking American. You know, as you stated before, my parents are immigrants. I'm the son of immigrants. So I've learned the hard values of work. My father was a contract sugarcane cutter. I've defied the odds since growing up. I'm going to Florida State, being a national champion. I'm actually having a shot at the NFL, starting my own business, basically sacrificing and nearly losing it all. So I'm living that American dream that attracted my parents here. And I want to give that to the American people.
And do you think that average Americans, or any American, that the dream is further away and harder to achieve? And if so, why?
Well, when you think about and contemplate the issues that Americans are facing, a lot of Americans have to work more than one job just to make ends meet. You have $1.5 trillion in outstanding student loan debt that's being burdened by 44 million Americans. When you think about gun violence in our street, the lack of action on climate change, the access to health care, many Americans cannot afford it. Seniors can't afford their high-cost prescription medicine. So I want to ensure that Washington is putting the policies in place so that people can live their everyday lives.
All right, well, let's sort of dig down into a few of those issues. I know that student debt, which is tremendous. I have a nephew who is struggling under that very kind of debt. My daughter had that kind of debt. What is your proposal? How would you erase that debt, relieve the huge burden on millions of college students?
Well, I'm proud that I've been the leader in terms of the candidates. I was the first to actually propose a program that would eliminate all of the $1.5 trillion debt. Some other candidates have proposed other plans that's not as aggressive, but I will be basically erasing all the outstanding student loan debt, which is averaging about $400 a month for debt holders, $30,000 on average in terms of principal. And we'll do that by repealing and rolling back the Trump tax cuts that gave nearly $2 trillion to the largest corporations and the richest of Americans.
Yeah. Well, you know, Mayor Messam, realistically, politically, you just have to say that there has never been any entitlement program or benefit, government benefit in the history of this country, which the people have received and then has been taken back. So whether the tax bill of 2018 is fair or not, or the wealthy benefit more than just sort of regular folks, which probably is true, nevertheless, I don't see any willingness on the part of Congress or the people to say, hey, roll it back so we can get rid of student debt.
Well, the thing is that it's an economic security issue. What does society tell you? Go to school. Go to college so you can have a high-paying job. Yet corporations don't have a skin in the game. It's hardworking, middle-class Americans who don't have, $50,000 a year to pay their children's way through college. But yet this nation needs to have an educated and well-qualified working force so that we can be able to innovate and be able to keep our economy moving forward. But this forgiveness actually will add $80 to $100 billion to the GDP. It will create 1.5 million jobs and free up $400 per month on average, where recent college graduate could perhaps invest in their new business, their retirement, perhaps even qualify for a mortgage.
Yeah. Well, we did see a couple of weeks ago a magnificent moment where a very wealthy African American said to the students at Morehouse College in Atlanta, I'm going to pay off your student loans. I mean, you would like to see that, but I mean, this is just sort of wish fulfillment. I don't see how you're going to make this happen.
Well, see, the thing is, it's about having the political will as a country. I think it's a moral outcry that should take place. But when corporations say, we won't even hire you unless you have a 4-year degree or higher, but yet they don't have any skin in the game, but yet they benefit from our intellectual contributions and qualifications to be able to innovate and to drive this economy. So it's a matter of political will. And what will happen is that, like for that gentleman that, which is a fraternity brother of mine, who forgave who's going to pay $40 million in outstanding student loan debt, you see, that is an anomaly. But we have to intentionally and strategically think about how do we prepare our next generation of innovators and workforce so that we can be able to stay as an economic power in this country and in the world.
Yeah. Mayor Messam, in your opening announcement, you said mayors are the ones who actually sort of where the rubber meets the road, we get things done. One of the things that you tried to do was stop oil drilling, which has been permitted up to a point out there in really just beyond Miramar in the Everglades. But the state of Florida has not been, even though the governor has said he opposes it, the state has not aggressively pursued that, and you seem to have dropped your legal opposition. Where do you stand on that?
Well, we did not drop our legal opposition. We were in partnership with Broward County, and we were in the process of actually making our petition to the Florida Supreme Court. But due to the fact that entitlement process to enable the drilling will have to come to Broward County for some form of a land use permit to do it, we just did not want to appear that we would prejudice that process. So we decided not to go to the Supreme Court and deal with it at a local issue.
Yeah. So you still have hope that that oil drilling permit is not going to be realized, that they will
We
not
are
be
committed.
drilling?
I am committed as the mayor of Miramar to ensure that not one piece of equipment pierces the soil that could potentially damage our water supply. We will fight it to the end because we cannot put the drinking water supply of nearly 4-6 million South Floridians at jeopardy just to drill oil in the Everglades.
Mr. Mayor, obviously Parkland is not far from Miramar. And what happened there on April 14th, 2018, we will never forget.
Yes.
14 students killed and staff, and 14 others wounded by this gunman. Do you favor the banning of military-style assault weapons? Do you favor other gun reform legislation?
Of course, you know, one of my campaign pledges is that in my first 4 years, I would like to reduce gun violence by 50%. And I think there are some low-hanging fruit opportunities that we can take as a nation. Like, for example, I think there should be universal background checks. If you should not have a gun, we should not allow you to have a gun. For example, if you have committed certain violent crimes, you shouldn't be able to own a gun. If you
Well,
have
we've got
certain
laws that
healthcare-
say that already, don't they?
Well, if you have a certain health care or mental condition that does not allow you to be a competent gun holder, as well as we should not be allowing these military-style, assault-style weapons that have been basically designed to annihilate life, that has no purpose in terms of the right to. Exactly. So I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. And what I'm proposing is not to infringe on the ability of any American the right to bear their arms. But there are some things that we just cannot as a nation accept what we are seeing in terms of mass shootings and violence in our streets with these type of weapons as the new norm. What happened in New Zealand took place, which was a tragedy. But that country had the political will, and within weeks, they took action. And I will continue to fight the NRA-backed lobby, the NRA-backed interest in terms of controlling and ensuring that all types of weapons. I'm not saying this just because I'm running for president. We're fighting this right now in the city of Miramar so that local municipalities can have more of a say in terms of gun control.
You are forbidden by state law from passing any kind of a local ordinance. I'm aware of that. All right, want to come back, talk about nitty-gritty political issues with you. Hold on, we'll be back with Mayor Wayne Messam in just a minute. On this Sunday morning, live in our studio, Wayne Messam, the mayor of Miramar and a Democratic candidate for President of the United States. You know, Mr. Mayor, on June 26th and 27th in Miami is going to be, for you and every Democratic candidate, is a make or break moment. It's going to be 2 nights of debating between the candidates. And let me put up on the screen so people at home can see what the criteria are to get on that debate stage. Number one, you have to show at least a standing of 1% in 3 national polls, have 65,000 contributions from at least 200 donors in 20 states. How are you doing on that?
Well, we're making progress. In fact, my campaign is just under two months old. We've received contributions from about 43 states. Our contributions continue to come in. And I'm amazed. I have one of the 3 national polls at 1%, so only need 2 more to go. So, and viewers can help me by coming to Wayne4USA.com to help me reach my goal.
But let me just say, the Quinnipiac University poll that came out this week shows you at 0. I mean, you are not showing up at all in that poll.
Well, just not on that poll. And when you look at some of these polls, they're polling 700, 800 people from who knows where.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my activities to go out to meet voters in the early states, and I am making traction. And the thing is that I know I'm a dark horse candidate. So my goal is to make it to one of the debates as we are getting into the debate season. And as the more people that see Wayne Messam and the issues that I'm pushing, the more traction that I'm getting. So I'm just doing everything that I can to get the exposure, like coming on programs like this, so that Americans can get an opportunity to meet Wayne Messam.
And we're glad you're here. This is exactly what we do, and we are glad you're here. So you do expect that you're going to be on that stage on one of those nights, June 26th or 27th?
That's what I'm working towards. And with the help of the audience as well as voters across the early states, that's what I'm working towards making it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a little bit about your personal finances. Miami New Times reported this week that back in the 2007, 8, 9 or so, maybe you had just started your business, that you had a number of tax liens that had been placed on you and your wife. There was an attempt for a mortgage foreclosure of the home. HOA where you live apparently had said that you owed them money. Now, you satisfied all of those, but what does that say about your own financial abilities or your own financial resources?
Well, my life experience is American success story. I left a very lucrative corporate American job to start my own construction management business with my wife in the Great Recession. And we made it. So I've talked about this. This is part of my testimony. So when I get to go to Iowa and South Carolina, I can look at Americans and say, you know what? I went out there and risked it all in a very tough time. So I know how it feels to struggle, to have those financial challenges, but we made it. And now we have one of the fastest growing minority construction management companies in the state. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud, of my life story, my experiences, because what voters are looking for is someone who they can relate to, someone who just doesn't give lip service. I will be a president that can sit in the Oval Office with the understanding, the sentiments of what Americans are really going through to be able to help drive policy.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, you have been the mayor of Miramar, your city, since 2015. You were a councilman in the city from 2011 on, so you've had municipal government experience, and that's important. Now, in this race, there's another mayor with that kind of experience, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who in fact was in Miami on Monday, but he's getting all the attention and you're not, basically. Why is that?
Well, the thing is, Mayor Pete, who has a tremendous story and has done very well in terms of his exposure in this country, but he started out really with this CNN town hall, which he did a great job talking about how we as mayors are closest to the people and how we solve challenges and problems. Right. And if afforded a CNN town hall or any other network town hall where millions of Americans can see the life story of Wayne Messam, my testimony, all the successes we're doing in the city of Miramar, they will gravitate towards my campaign, or at least a certain percentage of Americans, so that I then now can have the success that he's been able to get, and we're working our way towards that. So thanks for having me on this program, and as Americans get to see Wayne Messam, they'll be able to jump on board with our campaign.
That's a good answer. All right, let me go back to some of a couple of key issues here. The Florida legislature just passed, and the governor has signed, a law that outlaws sanctuary cities in the state of Florida, and people who have high populations of immigrants, and your city does have a lot of Caribbean and other African Americans and some Latin Americans. Do you think this is the wrong move? I mean, do you think this is discriminatory, or do you support outlawing sanctuary cities?
It's a terrible law that was passed in this state. First of all, there was not one sanctuary city in the state of Florida.
Right.
So it was unnecessary. Being the son of immigrants, and in South Florida in particular, where there's so many immigrants that are here in this country, and it just shows that to deputize local governments, without the resources, I was elected mayor to solve the challenges within our city. I was not elected mayor so that our police department can be immigration enforcement officers.
Right.
That's the federal government's job. Yeah. And it's a travesty, especially for any legislature, especially coming from South Florida or having constituents who are immigrants. To pass that bill is such a travesty.
That is going to be it for this part of the conversation. We're going to invite you to come back, and we'll see if you're on that stage at the Adrienne Arts Center in late June. Mayor Messam, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, up next, a report from Glenna, who is with the governor in Israel.